Okay, I have a little after 1 o'clock, so I will call the meeting of October 27th of the Beavercreek Township Trustees to order. We did get an email from Mr. Paxson that he will not be coming. Okay, do I have any, well, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance first. I have to speak. 30 years. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I have any additions or amendments? Okay, Mr. Albright.
Need to request a special meeting.
Okay. Is that the redo?
Yes.
Okay.
That'll be under zoning.
Right. Chief?
And a request to add Ohio Fire Executive Program to the Fire Department agenda, please.
Say that again, Ohio?
You can abbreviate it OFE.
Oh,
It's Ohio Fire Executive.
Oh, that's it. Okay. Anything over on my left? Do you have anything?
Nothing.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second?
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Ms. Graff?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the October 29, 2014 payroll in the amount of $257,424.56.
Second?
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Ms. Graff?
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $274,411.04.
Second?
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Ms. Graff?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the regular meeting minute. Make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting held September 29th, 2014.
Second?
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Ms. Graff?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting held October 1, 2014.
Second?
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Ms. Graff?
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting held October 13th, 2014.
Second?
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Ms. Graff?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting held October 21st, 2014.
Second?
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Ms. Graff?
Yes. We don't have any special citizens here. Mrs. Jones had a board meeting, and I told her when she could get here, I would put her into the meeting when she got here. This is an explanation of a question that came up at a previous meeting. So she was going to get here as soon as her board meeting allowed her to get here. Any other new business? Mr. Administrator, nothing this time?
My report?
Oh my God.
Stuff in executive session.
Human Resources?
Good afternoon. I don't have anything specific for the agenda. I do have my bi-weekly, just an update. We are still moving through the hiring process with the 3 regular part-time firefighters. We plan to have the orientation on the 11th of November. But besides that, do you have anything specific you'd like to ask on my bi-weekly?
Now, were there any action items from your department to follow up with Dr. Grice?
No.
Okay. All right. So then we just have
Then her
executive
report will
summary
be-
right, coming. Okay.
And that will be a final report. Very good, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Albright?
On Friday, I received a request that we postpone a special meeting that we had originally scheduled for Tuesday, tomorrow evening, the 28th. A request from the applicant. So in order to provide the legal notification, the 10 days legal notice that I must, as soon as we could have that meeting would be Friday the 7th. My own preference would be for Monday the 10th or perhaps Tuesday the 11th. It would be very difficult for me to attend any meetings thereafter until after Thanksgiving. So
I would suggest that if we have availability from our end, the 10th rather than on Veterans Day.
The 10th is my first choice too.
That's,
so-
I
know
leave
Mr.
Mondays
Paxton
open, so
isn't
that's
here.
fine.
I'm sorry?
I leave Mondays open too, so that's, and we're gonna have it be 7 o'clock, right?
That works for me as well, the 10th.
Okay,
Does that
well,
work for you?
I'll make it work.
We'll
Okay.
call it the 10th then.
okay.
Thank you. I'll send those notices out immediately. The notice is already written. In addition to the biweekly report, I'm sure you've probably heard, but the Executive Director, Greene County Regional Planning and Coordinating Commission has resigned effective at the end of this month. There will be a meeting tomorrow evening at Regional Planning by the commission itself. I think it's a full meeting of the commissioners, it's just the executive committee. In any case, it'll be a meeting called to discuss the situation and strategize. It'll be both budget and strategizing for Stephen's departure at the end, which is scheduled at the end of the month. I will attend that meeting and report back to you.
Okay.
They are discussing the new fee schedule for the local
Right.
jurisdictions. And they did hear potentially 2 other jurisdictions may be pulling out.
The two cities.
Yeah, the village of Yellow Springs and
Yeah.
City of Xenia.
I think Yellow Springs has already notified them because they had told me
Yes,
about
they-
that. Yeah.
Excuse me, they have advertised for an assistant village manager whose duties will include zoning and planning
Right.
and so forth. So that was not a surprise, that was planned.
So is the ultimate goal being accomplished then, to break it up and push it to the local jurisdictions?
To break what, to break up
Regional
the...
planning.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think because at the same time as the disruption in staffing is present and the mix-up with the billing of the Village of Yellow Springs, the commissioners have also at the same time made an additional commitment of funds to regional planning. I believe part of that is in recognition of their statutory responsibilities under the Ohio Revised Code to provide planning services, and the difficulty that they would encounter in putting any other means of doing so in place other than the regional planning model that's already in place. The Ohio Revised Code doesn't say you have to have a regional planning department, but it does say you have to provide certain services. And
They
doing
end up
so
the same
in a way other than the regional planning model would be to invent the wheel in November, and that's, not a good model to have in place. So who knows what's going to happen throughout the year next year? Maybe the commissioners will decide to outsource those services, but they do have to provide those services. So certain of the services, and so
There's more than one way to provide it, though.
there's more.
There's more than one way to provide it.
There's more than one. The ORC doesn't specify how you have to
Right.
provide them, only that you do have to provide them.
Mr. Amrine and I met last week and had a very long discussion and talked about the possibilities of changes from the county and what impacts it has on the township, especially zoning, and what budget impacts there could be for 15 if the county chooses to outsource a lot of those services. So we've already started that discussion last
Right.
week.
It could be that some of the services, and I haven't looked yet very carefully at the ORC and what the county must provide. I've read it, but not studied it deeply. And it's possible that we might find ourselves in the position of having to provide some of the services that once were provided by the county, meaning plan review, things like that. And we do our own plan review with roads and fire and zoning. And the other county departments that participated in that process still exist. The engineering department, sanitary engineering, soil and water, and so forth. The role that regional planning plays in all of that, once we approve a site plan, is that of coordinating the whole process so that we don't find ourselves in more situations like Bexley 3 where you've got a site that's shut down because the coordination didn't take place.
Now, don't they have to
And-
do subdivision review? Isn't that one of the requirements? Because we can't do it?
I don't know whether we can do it or not. I don't know
remember
whether townships are forbidden from doing subdivision
I-
review or not.
I believe it's under the county, and because the county adopts them, we don't adopt our own subdivision, so my vague recollection, having not reviewed it overly, is that
I know
they have to provide.
municipalities do their own, but I
Exactly.
don't know whether townships are permitted to do so. So
Yeah.
lots more to discover on that front, and I'll try to keep you posted as best I can. But I'll be attending that meeting tomorrow night.
How many plats are coming through, for which we will need those kinds of services?
Well, we have a zoning commission meeting on November 6th that will likely approve a site plan that will then come to you for the subdivision on Indian Ripple Road known as Wood Ridge, used to be called Indian Walk, Robert Simford's development. And I'm meeting on Wednesday with the engineer for River Reserve. That one's going to be, I suspect, not a one-meeting approval process with zoning commission. In other words, we won't know until we get to the point of presenting an approved, a plan recommended for your approval to you, and then we'll know when we need planning services of the sort that regional planning has provided. And it may well be that they may be able to continue to provide those services. I don't know. It doesn't, I don't know how at this point as I look at the situation, but obviously I'm not part of that discussion. So I don't know how they're going to provide those services.
Okay, thank you.
If you have any questions on the bi-weekly report, I'll be happy to.
I had a question. Can you refresh me on how we are our billing methodology for Valley Springs?
I have made no progress on that since your last meeting. We have created an invoice form that we will sit down with the finance department here shortly, and I'm tallying up the hours and the dollar amounts by legal and so on and so forth. I expect to send an invoice out shortly, but I've been challenged, shall we say, with staffing in the last couple of weeks. So I have to get that out soon because I'm about to spend my last legal dollars on the current invoices. So I need to get that invoice out because I don't want to come back and ask for more money from you. I don't think it should be necessary. So
Okay. But we recoup our legal and
recoup legal, my time. We'll recoup postage and advertising monies.
okay.
We'll recoup. I have to decide whether we can document my assistant's time well enough to try to recoup those charges as well.
Sure.
I think I will probably be able to do that, but
And is that on, Alex, is that on a cost basis or cost plus? Is there anything in there for like SG&A?
it's strictly
Okay.
cost recovery.
Okay.
The resolution approving their
Okay.
request for a fee waiver called it cost recovery,
That's what I
true and actual
Okay.
cost. So
No problem. I just, before I signed off on this one, I wanted to
My-
make sure we were, because
my
you're
guess at
going to
this
be
point
out of
is-
money in legal
Yeah.
very quickly.
My guess at this point is that invoice is likely to be in the $6,000 to $7,000 range at this point
Okay.
for the rezoning process.
And I would encourage them to
Pay within the 30 days,
Pay within the 30 days so that we can refill that legal bucket.
Who knows?
So-
They
Okay.
go over things with a fine tooth comb, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if we don't get it back, we don't do any more until we do.
Whether we can do that or not remains to be seen. We haven't gotten
I
that
saw a
far yet.
smile on the attorney's face there.
I think if you prepare the document, it's well documented, maybe meet with them and review it since it's the first one, and you can work through any issues, and at least you'll know if there's any issues pretty quickly. They can refill
Right.
our bucket so we can continue to help them.
And maybe maybe we'll need to tweak the process since
Right.
it's our first time into it, but we'll
Yep.
see.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Cherry?
Afternoon, Board. I have no purchases for this meeting. There's a couple of new developments since I put my bi-weekly in. One you're very much aware of with the PDFs and the iPads not being able to open up. I'll get work on that throughout the day and should have an answer for you hopefully by close of business, if not early tomorrow. Also, the website, Township website is in maintenance mode right now for doing, we had an issue with, on the fire department's website was hacked into last week, and we had requested DDR restore it. They had to shut it down. It was sending out a bunch of erroneous messages and spam, everything, so they shut it down, and we had it restored and had the new security updates, patches and everything put on it, so they're safe now operating. Ours, however, when we tried to update it, the new format didn't bring over some of the data, so we're having to restore it from the database or restore our site with DDR again. And that's where we currently stand. And I'm waiting on an email back from them saying we're good to go, and then we'll press on reformatting it and getting it updated.
Was that hack general in terms, or was it targeted to specific information?
They didn't give us any of that information. I don't know if they know. I know that they had the one group that targeted the city, but I don't think it was from that group. That they usually like to put a signature mark on it if it was from them. So it's I'm not sure if it was just a random thing.
Okay. Might put a little thing at the bottom of the website that just says "Call for public records request" next time. Don't have to hack it.
I guess we can put that.
You don't have to hack it. You can just call.
Okay, should have that back up by tomorrow for sure at the latest. Yeah. Any other questions on the bi-weekly?
No? Just want that iPad to start working again.
Yes. As soon as I sit down, I'll continue working on that.
I had none.
I'm lucky.
Oh, yours is open?
Mine work, I'm looking at mine right now. It's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't bring it up, well, half the time I couldn't open it, even as the attachment, and then I couldn't bring it up as annotate.
Yeah,
There
that's
was-
gotta be an
there's
issue
just
with
no
the
way to do that.
annotate, I believe, or is that what you're opening
Yeah.
insurance?
So whatever it is, it was,
No.
and
Mine's just-
I think
I just
Mr. Kress had the
opened
same
PDF.
problem.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't open it up, sir.
So, yeah, we'll look at that. Thought it might be the iOS,
for the motions.
but
Yeah. Well,
it doesn't seem to be the
That's why we have
iOS
it printed out, yeah. Because we couldn't open them.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Changed her address.
I'm sorry.
I went in and changed Chris's address in the settings section, so maybe that's the reason why hers is working.
Well, we had to delete the one on Friday that was.
We had a whole conversation for
Yeah, we-
after work.
Yeah, so. Oh, any other questions?
Okay.
I'm not the
so-
problem child this time, it's all.
no, that's right. I just tried it. I didn't aggravate over it.
We may be looking, I may have brought up last time, we're looking at possibly switching over to an Android device. We may test it here and see. We are coming up on end of life on these iPad devices.
Okay, as long as you can take over everything that we already have.
You bet, everything will be copied over.
Just learned that.
And Alex, we have our meeting on November 3rd, and then from there, I mean, at some point, we need to give Mr. Erickson direction as far as where we're headed, so that he's not in limbo and we're not in limbo. So,
Right.
okay.
Okay, so we have a meeting on the 3rd, then we have the 10th in the afternoon and evening.
That's right.
Okay.
We'll just schedule a special
Okay.
meeting.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Oh, thanks, Bert.
Mr. Parks.
Good afternoon.
That's not,
Did it? Well,
It's not,
there is one thing missing from the agenda. Is the annual road report. It was actually in your packet.
Yes,
it never
swore.
made it to the agenda, so.
the 40 point something miles.
40.73, which
4-3.
will be going up. I am almost, it might not reflect on our record, but by the end of the year, we will be taking on more road mileage because they're doing final paving Thursday and Friday in Spring Meadows, section 3 and 4.
Okay, did you want to add that to
Yes,
the
please.
agenda then?
Yes,
The
please.
annual road report, okay.
You put that first?
Yes.
Okay. And so you have presented us the annual road report. Yes, it was in the agenda, in the packet. And so I don't have any questions on it. This one we have every year. So do I have a motion to accept the road report as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Graff?
Yes.
Thank you. And I will
This
need
is
to
one
get
we
that-
need to sign.
I will need to get that back from Terrence so I can get it in form.
Okay.
The second thing I have on my agenda is the emergency purchase request for the generator. The radiator for the generator at Station 61. We had a little animal get in the corral and
Are these the ones you want signed?
put some trash and it got sucked through the radiator and we had to send it out for repair. So
When they do that repair, is there a way that they can cage that off or make any kind of barrier to prevent that in the future?
actually, we've already,
I don't know if it's a little critter or a big critter.
yeah, it was a raccoon.
Okay.
They carried some stuff over. Actually, we went ahead and treated that area to run them off for now. There are plans in next year's budget, I do believe, to put a actually block structure around that
Okay.
to kind of help defer from him and trash getting into that area.
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve. Where's the purchase request? Yeah,
Sorry.
that's okay. Thank you. Make a motion to approve purchase request 00335 to Buckeye Power Sales for the repair of Station 61 standby generator in the amount of $10,000 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board. I have a question for you. Is the amount in it, is it a flat 10,000 or is it a not to exceed?
It's not to exceed.
Okay. So in it, so again, I'll restate this. I'll make a motion to approve the purchase request 00335 to Buckeye Power Sales for the repair of Station 61 standby generator in the amount of not to exceed $10,000 and to authorize township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Graff?
Yes.
Thank you. The next thing I have on the agenda is the cherry tree project. We went out and met with that group last Thursday. I laid out in front of you kind of a tentative plan on what they are thinking. One of the things I have requested is there's 5 trees on the west side of the pond. We're going to move to the east side just because the 2 trees in that area are actually donated trees in the memory of somebody. So we don't want to take away from that. This group's been very, very nice to work with. They're actually going to come out and place flags so that we can give final approval. They're working on getting the mulch and all that. All we had to do is actually dig the holes, plant them, and tentatively we have that set for the 12th and 13th of November.
So you're moving, which trees are you moving? I'm
The
sorry.
ones on the west,
The
east
ones
side?
closest to Dayton Xenia Road, these first 5,
Okay.
go over to the proposed area
Oh, okay.
Oh,
on the
okay.
east side,
Okay.
or the alternate area.
And that satisfies their visibility that they, I mean, they participated in this.
Oh,
so
yes.
They're happy with this.
Yes, and
Okay.
actually, there was a landscape designer from Siebenthaler's that was there,
Okay,
and we had the exchange back and forth, and the master gardener, and
good.
Yeah, where they're up, they're high enough, not a
Right,
problem.
and they were kind of looking for backdrops with the pond, and
And a refresher as far as our obligation on these trees, because I know they're sensitive over the first 2 or 3 years, is that correct?
Right.
3.
As of Thursday, they are providing the gator bags for them to be watered. They are 99% sure now they have a landscaper that will come in and water them, trim them for the first 2 years.
And that they'll bring a water truck, or they'll use our water supply?
I'm assuming they'll bring a water truck. If not, we'll just have them feed off the well over Phillips.
Be a lot easier to water truck. Okay. And these funds are from the park improvement?
Right.
Fund?
It's the land improvement fund that
Okay.
Miss Aaron would like to have closed by the end of the year. She's been on there for 2 years to try to get rid of it.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna do that.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve purchase request 00334 to 1000 Cherry Tree Project / Green County in care of Kent Anderson in the amount of $2,500 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second,
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Ms. Grant?
yes.
And the next thing I have on the agenda is actually a 2-motion process. It is a proposal from Tackett Environmental Services to come in and do the asbestos abatement, testing, abate it, and actually demolish the house. All as a turnkey project, which is kind of what we talked about when we purchased the property. We went through the proposal. Legal, as of Friday afternoon, was comfortable with it because we made some changes to the terms and conditions. And he just struck those out of his proposal. I'm trying to find my email. The one thing that legal asked that I advise you of, in the terms and conditions in paragraph 4, provides that claims regarding the performance of Tackett Environmental has to be brought within a year and only after another expert provides a report setting out how they were negligent or violated the standard of care. And it would go to binding arbitration instead of a jury trial.
I just like to point that out because it's different. I'm not a fan of binding arbitration. There's nothing that prevents you all from doing it, but I like to make sure that you all are aware that, and that's only as to if there was a problem with the work performed, not necessarily if there was an injury or property damage, just work performed, but it would have to go to binding arbitration. So I'd like you guys to be aware of that.
Does Tackett have any outstanding litigation right now?
No. And actually, we've used them in the past.
They have no pending lawsuits, no pending
None to my
litigation
knowledge.
that we're
Not
aware
that
of?
I'm aware of.
And they have actually done some work for Beavercreek City Schools and Green County, so.
Is
they're
Mr.
tracked there.
Mr. Tackett still involved in the corporation?
He retired.
Passed away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, retired to North Carolina, I believe, passed away about a year ago.
So now it's a gentleman by the name of Ken Caldwell that's taken over the company,
Okay.
who was a longtime employee of theirs.
Okay, now we have 2
So
separate.
from legal, are you suggesting that we negotiate that term with them or that we accept that term?
No, I think it's okay for you to go ahead and accept that term. I'd just like you to be aware of it because some entities have a strong feeling against binding arbitration.
Sure.
So I don't like to recommend that you do it without making you aware that that's there. But you're certainly, I mean, legally you can do it. I don't think it's necessarily a problem. And it's kind of the way that a lot of these service contracts are going anymore.
Okay.
Okay. And there's 2 stages of this.
Right, one is to take the agreement and pass it, and one is for the purchase request to cover the cost.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal from Tackett Environmental for the structural demolition and asbestos abatement as presented pending legal approval of terms and conditions and to authorize township administrator to sign for the board.
Okay, did you want to mention for the structure on 1940 Indian Ripple Road?
That's fine.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Ms. Grant?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve purchase request 00333 to Tackett Environmental for the structural demolition and asbestos abatement in the amount of $24,875 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
With the addition again of the address, 1940, whatever it is. 1940 Indian River Road. Second.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Ms. Graf?
Yes.
And that's all I have except for my bi-weekly report, and I'll be more than willing to answer any questions you may have.
Any notable notes that you want to point out?
We're making substantial progress on the Factory Road project.
Okay.
Actually, just so you're aware, the guys are going to actually work late tonight, just so we can help beat the weather.
As far as the grading, you're going to grade it out now, or are you still?
We're currently still hauling off. I bet you we probably hauled over 100 loads out of there.
Okay. I liked your pictures that
Those
you,
would be Alex's pictures.
well, the pictures that indicate what the work has been done, and hopefully we will keep track of how many fewer times we have to put road closed signs up, depending on how much rain is falling, you know. Not by the year, because you never know what it is, but if we have an inch of rain, do we close it? If it's 2 inches, do we have to close it? If it's gone to 3 inches, do we have, just so that we can see?
That's how we track it now. so.
Okay.
And then the other notable note is we do have all of our salt. And actually, we ended up getting another 78 tons over and above what we were promised. So, all in all, that's a good thing. We're kind of currently working on a revised snow removal policy so that it kind of mirrors the county. That meeting is
Right, the 31st of
Friday at the engineer's office.
Is the city involved in that?
Yes.
So that you have,
And actually, I have the cities laying on my desk as I'm kind of working off it. So those will pretty much be mirrored close.
Okay. We approved the 35,000. Did you have sufficient left over in your budget to
Yes, we did.
pay the difference? Because I saw that it was 38,000 or something.
Right. We covered that underneath the blanket in the gas tax fund.
Okay.
That was one of those unforeseeable.
That's all right.
We
As long as-
open a blanket usually when we order salt or bee heat, and we actually got a load of that in this week, so.
Okay, and where is it all? Is it all in the,
It's all in the barn.
okay?
So if I think about it, I'll take a picture of the barn. That's probably the fullest it's been in years.
Okay, is there, we don't have any expectation of getting any additional?
Currently, no.
Okay.
There are a bunch of private folks out there willing to give us quotes. I'm just filing those away in case we might have to need one down the road. But
Okay.
we're going to try to make what we have in the barn last, which we should be close
Till
to
May,
about 700
right?
tons on hand.
You want it to last till May?
It would be fine with me if it lasts till next December.
That's good. I'll accept next December also. Very good, thank you.
And that's all I have other than
Okay,
I want to put on your radar the Phillips Park Bridge replacement. Moving forward, we actually had a composite bridge contractor out last week to kind of look at it. The placement plans are done. I think we actually paid for those today. So now we're into that next phase of getting some specs together and getting that moved forward, so.
who will provide the deck? I assume it's a prefab deck that they'll drop in at some point.
Right, and I don't know the name of the company right off the top of my head, it's on my desk. But it's Composite Bridge Works out of Dayton.
sure.
Okay,
It's done a bunch of them around here, so. They came out and looked and are working on a proposal now, so.
Common strategy now. Water line, you're working on an executive summary there?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks to David, we have the map done, and I met with Mr. Thonrow, we're trying to put some prices together if we did it in-house, and when the next foreseeable time that we have that window.
I spoke to Mr. Darden and I expressed my support, but also I shared with him some of the hesitations and concerns. And so I did ask him, why not, if they already have a tractor, why not buy a water tank with a spreader and fill up the tank and distribute it the way you need it? And so he was going to take that back to you and
Haven't spoken to him.
bring an argument point back to me. So it was just a challenge question. So,
I haven't spoken to him.
okay.
It's probably because he hasn't found me in my office is probably the reason.
Just making you aware. So,
Okay.
But otherwise, it was a very positive conversation. It was just, I said, look, you're going to spend this much to do this. I said, you're already doing it manually now. If you need a broader distribution, why not put a water tank on the back of your tractor, hook up the PTO with a spreader and just do it?
He's probably busy now with the election, so maybe that's why he hasn't shown up.
Well, that and he has an Eagle Scout project going on currently, so. And I guess that is coming
But
along.
just a
very
point
nicely.
of awareness.
Okay.
Thank
I'll look
you.
forward to him popping in my office one day.
Okay.
Okay, and at this point, Mrs. Jones is here, so I'm going to ask her to
Thanks, Tim.
come before. Chief?
I think most of you know me. I'm Gussie Jones. I'm the co-chair of the Owens Place Committee. I've been in the community listening to the people who have spoken on behalf of Issue 20 at political forums. And the question was raised more than once, and I thought perhaps it was a good time for me to come and clear up any kind of misconception. Owens Place is a township park district. It is a project. It's a private project, but it's in a township park district. And because of that, we have set aside and established a totally separate fund. It is through the Greene County Community Foundation, also known as Green Giving, but it is managed by the James Investment Fund. There is approximately a little bit more than 2% of every dollar that we have raised, and it is set up so that the only use for that money is for future repairs and maintenance of any of the structures that we have. So, and I know that some of the questions have come because of the city parks levy and the fact that they have said that if issue 12 doesn't pass, that maintenance will be curtailed on the parks. And so I did not want anybody to think that Owens Place issue 20 would be taking any maintenance money from anybody else. So that money is set aside, and as I said, the result of the terms of the agreement with James is that it cannot be used for anything except structure, maintenance, and other repairs in Owens Place, and that's it. So, any questions?
They anticipate it should be sufficient over the period of time to
We
do
do,
that?
because with the structures that we have already in place came with, depending on which ones they were, they came with 7 to 10 year warranties on them. Total replacement, no labor costs. And so hopefully for the next 10 years, we will not incur any, and at the same time, we will continue to put 2% of the dollars that we raise into that particular fund. So.
Thank you for, no, I appreciate you articulating that. I think Mr. Darden did try to communicate that. The concern obviously is to build more parks that we may
Right.
not be able to maintain.
Absolutely.
Or in your case, or in Owens Place case, to expand an existing park, but then that truly resides or is situated inside of another park
Right.
that is subject to our maintenance agreement, essentially with the city, and those dollars are potentially in jeopardy. So it's kind of a hybrid, because you have a standalone,
Right.
you have a maintenance fund theoretically in perpetuity, yet it sits within another park that is, from a funding standpoint, as far as maintaining it, there's concerns.
No, we're not, the Owens Place as it exists now is not under the contract we have with the city.
No, but to get to it, you have to drive through
The
Rotary.
road, well, it's through our Rotary Road into, yes. It's-
Right, that's my
It's
point.
our little road that we have to make,
Right.
to get there.
I'm kind of hoping that we don't have to pick up that tab.
Are you willing?
I don't
Are you
think,
willing?
we don't even want to know what that one is.
I think we'd have to kick in more than 2%.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, and I apologize for being late. I was at a board meeting, so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon. Enjoy the beautiful, gorgeous weather out there.
If we ever get there. Okay, Chief Vandenbos.
Good afternoon, Board. Just have a couple items for you today. The first item on the agenda is a purchase request, and that is for a Sensic calibration station. That is a station that allows us to, there's two purchase requests here, we can talk about that one first and then follow that. The station basically allows the crews to better maintain the units through the calibration process. Calibration is a manufacturer required action that needs to be done monthly. Currently they are calibrating it monthly, but without this station they use more of the calibration gas, and they don't have any diagnostic capability or any logging and tracking capability. So by adding this component, they'll be able to continue doing what they're already doing, but do it more efficiently and keep better records of it. They did evaluate the possibility of hiring a company to come out and do that, and 1 year's worth of contract services for performing the same function by a private vendor was going to cost about $1,000 more than the unit itself. So long term, they didn't feel that was a viable option. So I'll be happy to answer any other questions the board may have regarding that.
What's the life expectancy for the station?
I believe it's 10 years. That's usually what they have for the capital, but I can't guarantee that. I can find that out for you though.
What are the annual, what other annual recurring costs should we anticipate with this? Is there a training that's going to have to be redone every year, and is there a recalibration of the station that has to be redone every year?
I don't know the answer to either of those questions.
In other words, will a maintenance contract come up eventually the way we have on some other equipment?
I don't believe so, but I will verify that for you. I can get those answers before you approve it if you would prefer.
I would just like to know that before we approve it. I'm not opposed to it whatsoever. So, but if you can bring this capability in-house, you're generally going to have better control and better documentation on it. So, but I'd just like to know what the recurring costs are projected to be in round numbers.
I'll get that information for you for next meeting.
Okay,
Deferring this to the next meeting won't make us incur a cost that we're going to have to pay an outside service to do anything different.
No, it just means the one extra in-house that they'll be doing will use the same amount of gas they've been using for the past however many years we've had the devices.
Okay.
A minimal additional cost, if any.
Okay.
All right, we'll add that to the next meeting's agenda. Any other questions on that, or? And I'll get that from you after the meeting if that's all right.
Thank you.
The next item I have for you is a replacement medic. And this unit is the one that we discussed earlier this year. I think it was in our March meeting. And at that time we had a fairly lengthy discussion regarding evaluation of the fleet in general. Give you guys a handout here. This just goes along with the information that's already in your packet. It's just a graphic representation.
Thanks. The Novak report wasn't overly positive.
Well, it was very helpful. So one of the things that we discussed last time is we did not have a specific methodology for evaluating on performance base what our fleet replacement should be. We're strictly on a schedule, and the schedule didn't have any other validation other than that's what we've always done. So in the draft report, they had a template for evaluating fleet maintenance, and it's based off a number of criteria, generally the age or the amount that the vehicle's been used, the type of use, recurring maintenance costs, periodicity of maintenance needs, whether there's been breakdowns or regular maintenance or in addition to regular PM, and then general physical condition of the unit. So for the medics, we went ahead and ran all 7 medics through that process, scored them out according to the Novak report, or the template that they had provided, and then based off of that I have a short table of results for you in your packet, and it shows that out of our 7 medics that 5 of them are rated as poor, needing priority replacement. That's a little bit skewed in that 3 of those are reserve units, or 2 of them are reserve specifically, 1 is a bariatric unit. So the life cycle on them is a little bit different than a frontline, but 2 of them obviously are scored low. And as you can see, it's the 2008 and 2007 units that are or excuse me, the 2008, 2006 are the two units that are frontline that scored low. So we have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old unit that this is recommending be replaced. So what we'd like to do is, based off the fact that we did have it budgeted for this year, we have applied the tool that was provided to us to help evaluate these. We'd like to go ahead and get approval to get that purchase and get the process of replacing the oldest unit, which would be the 2006 Road Rescue Medic 62 replaced. If the board does approve it, I just want to let you know that this is strictly for the medic. There will be about $15,000 in additional cost that will come after the fact for all of the other aftermarket equipment that'll have to go in their radios, computers, and all of that.
You said which unit will you use?
This would be Medic 62. If you look there, Medic 62 and Medic 65 are kind of neck and neck, scored at 49 and 50.
What is 63? Is that the one that had a 34 score?
Medic 63 is, it is a frontline medic, but since it's in better condition than Medic 62, it would be the next one after this to get replaced.
Okay. All right. And 65 is which one? Which one is the bariatric unit?
67 is the bariatric unit. And then we'll work with maintenance, assuming that the one thing that is not factored in here, and I mentioned in there that we scored conservatively because we're waiting a few specific questions on how the table works. This did not include the specific maintenance costs. So this is, the score will actually increase once we have those costs factored in. So I feel pretty comfortable in the general order, but it's not exact. What we'll do is we'll work with maintenance and figure out which one medic should get stepped out when we get a new one in. And it probably will be the Horton, but it won't necessarily be the lowest scoring one specifically because it will be the bariatric unit, which is only used on an as-needed basis. So its reliability and other issues will get factored in, as well as the fact that it doesn't get used very often. So it's a specific call for piece as opposed to a generally dispatched piece.
I thought that all the new units that we were buying were going to have
They will have the capability, yes.
to put the
Correct. It'll have the brackets for the winch and for the
ramp.
the cot and for the ramps.
Okay, so
But we'll
that
still maintain a separate unit that's set up specifically for that, at least in the short term. Long term, we may end up getting rid of it. But since we have the units that we can basically set aside in a very minimal use area, we'll probably do that, at least in the short term.
Okay. Until it just falls apart then.
Yes, until Tim tells me I can no longer keep it, and then we'll do it.
Also, keep in mind that if we do purchase this medic, we'll be under the 2014 pricing. And if we wait till 15, it'll be about a $4,000 increase.
Okay.
Delivery would be taken when?
It's 210 to 240 days, if I remember correctly, from point of order. But we're basically right at the end of being able to order a 14 chassis. If we wait till the next board meeting, we'll be into a 15 chassis. And so delivery would be 240 days after probably mid-January to late January. So it'll be substantially later in the year.
But you'd have a 2015 chassis at a 2014 price?
No, you'd have a 15 chassis at a 15 price.
This is a 14 chassis
Correct.
and a
This is a
14
chassis
but
at a 14
but it's a
price.
it's a new unit. It's just not the upgraded chassis.
Right.
When is that cut off?
It's sometime in the next week. I heard November 1st, but I've heard a couple days around the beginning of November, so it is before the next board meeting.
And you said it has been budgeted for this year.
Yes, ma'am. Matter of fact, it's, so the medic replacements were part of our 10-year plan when we set it out in 2009. Originally, we had slated for a medic to be replaced each year. When we bought the ladder in 2011, as we're trying to think, that's when that was, we dropped it from 10 medics over 10 years to between 6 and 7 medics over 10 years. And we've purchased one of those, two of those, one in 12 and one in 13. So we have another 4 to 5 medics that we're planning to purchase in this 10-year cycle. And we've got about 5 fiscal years left in that cycle. So.
I have a question for you. When I drive by Ritchie Brothers auction up in near Columbus, and I see 50 medic units sitting out there. Who buys those?
I have no idea.
I mean,
My
and they're
guess
all,
is-
they're all from Hilliard they're from one giant jurisdiction. So where do those
A lot of them are used as work trucks. A lot of times, you'll see mom and pop private ambulance services purchase them. Well, most of the time it's contractors, to be honest with you. They use the box for compartment space or workspace.
So
they
they're
take
taking
the
whatever.
box off and then make it a flatbed or something else like we've done in the past with ours.
Okay. I'm in support of voting for this. I would prefer to vote for it with a full board. But my understanding is we have a timing issue.
I believe if we wait till the next meeting that we will be looking at a 15 purchase with a 15 price. That's what I've been told. I don't know if that's sales talk or if that's, we are literally at the deadline. But that's what's been referred to me.
Most of the time, the state contracts renew in November, somewhere between the first and 15th. That's where that $4,000 increase is coming from.
Yeah, and this is.
The need isn't going to go away.
No, the need's not going to go away, so, and,
You know-
and ultimately, I'm telling you, I would vote yes at the next meeting, whether I voted then or now.
Right.
But
And I did not receive any questions for what it's worth from the packet, so the information's been out there since last Thursday, nothing's been forwarded, so I don't know of any issues that are outstanding.
Has Mr. Paxton raised any questions or concerns to you, Alex, on this?
Not about this.
Okay. Okay.
So are you ready to go ahead with it or not?
I'll make a motion to approve purchase request 07305 in the amount of $277,708 for here to Burgess Ambulance Sales for replacement medic unit and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Ms. Grant?
Yes.
Thank the board, we'll get that started, and probably the next meeting or two, we'll have the additional equipment requests as well, so that as the unit comes in, we can finish getting it out.
Great.
If I could, I'd like to skip the biweekly report for a moment and go to the added item, which is the Ohio Fire Executive Program. I have a request and a recommendation from staff to have Chief Heaster apply for this program. It is a 3-year program for Chief Officer Development. Our first member that went through the program several years ago was Battalion Chief Connors. And since then, I believe Chief Dorson has gone through it. Currently, Lieutenant Hawker is in it. And we'd like to continue that officer development, core officer development with sending Chief Heaster. This is not something where we'll have an expense until fiscal year 2015, sometime in February. So this is not a budgeted item for this year, but it will be a budgeted item for next year if the board approves it. But what we do have to do when we make application is indicate that the township, if he is approved to the program, the township will provide financial responsibility for completing the course. And so the cost of that over the 3 years is $9,500. It's $3,800 for 2 years and 19 or whatever the difference is in the third year. I don't recall what that is off the top of my head. So what we'd be looking at is a budgeted cost of $3,800 next year and in 16, and then the remainder would come due in 17. So if the board is interested and willing, I have a motion that I've kind of handwritten here I can offer up to you. But again, we're up against a hard deadline. The reason it's coming too late is because the application process includes that statement, and it got lost in the shuffle because it's not a budgeted thing yet. But then when we went to get the application signed, we realized that with the financial responsibility, obviously there's a board requirement there. So,
What's the benefit explained to the township?
it is developing chief officers or up-and-coming officers in a rigorous study that is just short of college level. They can get college level credits, but they will not get a degree coming out of it. And they talk about strategic level management issues. There's an HR component, there's planning components, there are pieces for team building and workforce development. So it's taking all this principles that you want for senior leadership and condensing them in a program where you're with peers in like positions dealing with similar issues to help develop that and build that next group of chief officers coming up. So we've in the past looked at senior level lieutenants, which is, for example, why Lieutenant Hawker is in there. And then we're obviously looking at the chief officers as well to develop them. It's a state level mirror of what the National Fire Academy has in the Executive Fire Officer program. The problem with the national program, while it's funded, which is great, there is very high entry requirements in that you do have to have, for example, a 4-year degree now to even get in the program at the national level, whereas the state level realizes there's still a lot of officers that can't meet that bar and wants to get them in and get them college level information and training, even though they may not be able to be in a position to either go get a degree or have a degree to get into the program.
Are there any grant program, regardless, setting this aside, I mean, are there any grant programs available that we should be looking at for next year or the next several years as far as continuing development, training, education grants? Not
for senior staff level positions. There are grants by both the Department of Commerce, State Farm Marshal's Office, and the Department of Public Safety EMS office for entry-level positions, but there's none that I know of for senior-level positions like this. You could conceivably write, for example, an Assistance to Firefighters grant, the big national grant each year. You could conceivably write for some training, but it is a very low priority in the scheme of things for how they rank them. So you could write for it, but the likelihood of it being funded is probably pretty slim.
And if we were to go ahead with this, how many individuals would we have in this program simultaneously?
Simultaneously, we would have an overlap at the beginning of next year with Lieutenant Hawker finishing her last course and Chief Easter starting his first course, and then we would have just a single person Chief Easter after that.
Okay.
I think this follows up on the recommendations that we've got from the performance audit that recommends continuing education, and promoting the skills of our personnel to improve them. So I think this is, and it's been a very beneficial program. I think they also come out with a project
Yes, ma'am.
that is supposed to be beneficial to the...
There is a capstone project that is supposed to be department specific. So Chief Dorson's, I think, was staffing, if I recall correctly, at the time he went through it. I don't recall what Lieutenant Hawker's is right now. She's finishing her project, so we'll have a formal presentation shortly on that. And then Chief Easter would obviously be choosing something kind of within his realm, area of expertise that he would build on that would meet the requirements for the project for him, but then also be an advantage or benefit for the township.
You may have already said that. Where's the training held?
The classes, I believe, are all held in Columbus, and they're not frequent. I want to say he's gone for a week at a time, maybe, where he'll have a week where he'll go for 3, 4, 5 classes in a row, and then he'll be back for the rest of the quarter, and then he'll go for follow-ups later on. They've changed the format a little bit, and I'm not sure what they have scheduled for next year, but I believe Lieutenant Hawker has gone for 1 week in February to finish hers.
So the 9,500 covers the training course material. I mean, essentially attending the classes. There would be additional T&L travel living.
I believe there's travel and expense in addition to that. This is literally just the obligation to the state.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just for the executive officer course.
Okay.
Mrs. Harris, do you have any comment on the program?
Well, I think it's a very good program for officer development. I would like to see the township consider the National Fire Academy because, as Mr. Kretz pointed out, that is FEMA picks up the cost for that. The only cost to the township, there's 2 costs actually to the township, is time away from the department, and the other cost is the meal ticket, which I believe now is $150. And only 1% of our nation firefighters get accepted to the national program. Now, it's just not for officer development. There's different cores of training at the National Fire Academy, but once a department is kind of recognized as being part of the national curriculum, they're given preference on other applicants that come in, whether it's fire prevention, EMS, education programs, arson, I forget what the other, officer development is a big one. And I've taken some of the ones that Chief has said in the National Fire Academy, and they are challenging courses. I mean, essentially you're taking a whole semester and doing it in a 2-week course for executive officer.
So, and would he qualify for the national?
No, until he gets a degree, he will not qualify for the national.
Okay.
Only a few of our,
So
there'll be other classes that, so we could look at the National Fire Academy and say, we want you to take, like command and control is a 4-class curriculum, which would benefit all our officers, and there's no college requirement for those classes. The loss to the township is away from work.
No different than
And
this.
overtime.
Still time away.
Right, there's still time away and then the meal ticket. But those classes have gone from 2-week classes down to 1-week class, which if you are accepted to those 1-week courses, the National Fire Academy sends you a lot of homework, prerequisite information that you need to complete before you show up to the National Fire Academy.
So whether we do the Ohio or if we did the national, both would have variable costs as far as travel and living.
That's correct.
Only the Ohio would have the fixed cost.
Right.
As far as the fee for the 3-year period paid out in whatever increments it's paid out in. The only way to get him to the national would be to accompany someone, or can he not go?
He can get into classes at the National Fire Academy. He could not get admitted to the Executive Fire Officer Program, which is a specific certification.
Okay, you had mentioned that
there's other courses.
The township gets preference, but it's only for the other coursework.
Right.
It's not for.
So once we have somebody in the program at the National Fire Academy, they kind of assume, and FEMA kind of assumes that the local jurisdiction is buying into this concept, and they'll consider other applicants, whether it's one applicant for one course, but for the National Executive Fire Officer, it is a requirement now that you have a 4-year degree. So, but there's command and control classes, there's other officer development classes at the national level. That is, FEMA picks up the cost, room and board costs, and it's like I said, it's not easy courses. It's not what we're saying.
So I'm going to ask the devil's advocate question. If you took the $9,500 and you sent one of our individuals that does qualify for the National Fire Academy to that, could we get close to the same coursework for in place of going to the Ohio Academy? Could you accomplish the same goal?
I don't know how many officers we have that would qualify for the national. I know the chief would, but
I'm not sure about how many would qualify, but you're also looking at the difference between a program, which is what OFE is, and individual courses, which is what the national offers. So to get the same amount of training would take multiple trips from here to the National Fire Academy to get even close to the same amount of coursework.
That's
not
what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
If it's the
they're
question,
kind of separate.
they're two different tracks, bottom line.
Yeah, now, for what it's worth, and this may be a bit of a spoiler, but when we do talk budget, I am going to make a recommendation in the budget for me to apply for the national equivalent of it for next year. So I don't want you to make a decision based off of thinking nobody's going to try and get in and then have me surprise you with it. So I'm going to make application. There's no guarantee, obviously, I'll get in the program, but I do meet the qualifications, so I have a better than average chance, I would think.
Okay, so if we pass this today, we're committing for 2015 funds, essentially.
We're committed for 15, 16, and 17.
Plus 2 additional years, right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Assuming he gets in, so there is that part of it as well. He may not be admitted.
Okay. Do you have a motion?
Yes, the motion I have for you is to move to approve Battalion Chief Feaster's application to OFE and provide financial responsibility for the course, and authorize the township administrator to sign for the board. Yes, I do.
So moved.
Yes.
Second. You said it very well.
Thanks, David. I'll give it back to you. Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Ms. Graff?
Yeah.
Thank you, board.
Teamwork.
And if he does get into the program, we'll make sure that we'll keep you up to speed not only on what he's doing while he's in it, but we'll have a presentation of the capstone project, and I'll be requesting that of Lieutenant Hawker as well as she completes your coursework. And the last item I had for the board for today is a biweekly report. Just a couple items of interest to point out to you. One is that we're moving ahead with the auxiliary and seeking out possible interest for beginning a Beavercreek CERT team. CERT is the Community Emergency Responders Training Team. Okay, that's what happens when we live in acronyms too long. There has been strong interest from Beavercreek residents in the past. There were a number that went through the initial training provided by Greene County EMA several years ago. We have that contact information, and we're reaching out to see if any of them are interested in continuing. There's also Greene County has EMA funds available to help train and outfit a team if we were able to field one. So we're going to be checking out interest, and then depending on the interest, we'll include some funds in our budget request for 2015 to get that going. The cost should be minimal because of the grant training, and it will provide us just another tier of folks to help out in the event of large-scale incidents or disasters, and also to have tied into our emergency responder program so that if there is anything that comes up, we have a cadre of folks who are interested and dedicated and trained to be able to help us out. So think in terms of windstorms, tornadoes, lost person searches. Those sorts of events are ideally tailored to this, where you just need a lot of additional bodies to help either triage or evaluate an area. So, for example, the tornado in Cedarville a while back, they helped doing windshield assessments, where they would go out and evaluate, okay, this neighborhood's hit and how badly, or this neighborhood is clear and we don't have to worry about it, which will then better allow us to allocate resources in the event of an incident like that. Ebola continues to be a topic of conversation, so we are trying to get the state and county's resources. There's a lot of information, a lot of misinformation, a lot of contradictory information, and you can see that happening predominantly on the East Coast. We're trying to wait and see how some of that settles out and be cognizant and prepared at the same time. I did confirmed that ProQA is being upgraded to include the Ebola protocol for Beavercreek. That requires medical director advocacy, so we're getting that support from our medical director right now, and then the dispatchers will be trained on it with their follow-up training that's scheduled for November. And then our crews have had some infectious control refreshers to make sure that they understand the appropriate levels of personal protective equipment, gowns, glasses, goggles, those sorts of things.
Are you equipped?
I'm sorry?
That was my question. Are you equipped? If you had to do a transport.
We are currently equipped, yes.
Okay.
So what we're looking for now is, are they going to come out with additional recommendations for anything else? But most of the training that I've heard about has more to do with technique than it does with equipment. We've already been prepared for infectious control issues. H1N1, swine flu, avian flu, all of those things that come through in the past. This is a nastier version, but it's basically the same thing. So our equipment should be good, but it's reviewing the protocols and procedures. For example, one of the big ones that I know Mr. Zahariff ran into this is how you take the gowns off appropriately, whether you have a single pair of gloves or a double pair of gloves. Things like that may not be at the forefront of people's minds, but make all the difference on the back end when you're trying to make sure that you're decontaminated. So,
well, yeah, the decontamination, and then also the waste disposal.
Exactly.
Does our whoever picks up do we have a updated?
Do we have an incineration program?
We do not. All of our stuff is infectious control related. I've never asked the question whether they would pick it up having a known contaminated product, but I would assume they do, because they pick up for everything else that's out there.
How would that work if you transported a suspected case of that to Soin? Would you?
95 to 98% of the stuff is left at Soin.
That's what I thought.
Yes, because we don't bring a contaminated unit back.
If I understand this, Green Memorial is the designated regional, this repository for this disease, that anyone who would show up with it, I assume that's where we would.
For Kettering Network. So anyone in Kettering Network would be shipped from, for example, Fort Hamilton, which is a Kettering hospital in Hamilton. would be transferred to Green Memorial. And what they're using is the old ER.
Right, there's
that they're
no,
using
not
is
being
so
used.
isolated. All the hospitals have in place, and it's happened twice already in this region, where patients at Kettering and one at Miami Valley Hospital, where the patients claimed they had it. One claimed they had it because they were assuming they would get some sort of narcotics for it, and the other claimed it because she thought she would get faster care at the hospital, which she did. But there is a protocol in place at the hospital. So if our crew goes out with a potential patient, that unit and the staff will stay at the hospital and go through the decontamination and quarantine start the process there. And then at that point, we'll work with the hospital about the medic unit itself, because we're not going to bring the medic unit back to Beavercreek. That will stay at the hospital and be decon there. And the last medic was decon by a contractor that was brought in. So our staff will stay there, and then depending on the test, which relatively comes back pretty quick, they'll still be quarantined for 21 days. And those, right now, they're advocating home quarantines, but I don't know how many guys would want to be at home with their families, but it's a 21-day, not work, limited access to other people.
How do the stations deal with that then?
How does
From
the
a staffing?
staff, that is a major issue that everyone is questioning, because now, granted, the other one that happened, the other two were hoax in the region. So the quarantine only lasted a half a day, and then they were told to come back to work. But yeah, that is a major issue. If you have two, potentially, and if an engine arrives, you may have 4, battalion chief 5 people that would have to be quarantined for 21 days.
If and when it happens, it will be a royal pain, but we'll work our way through it. So we have, matter of fact, we have a staffing allocation because of past pandemic exercises. We have our resource allocation down to 2 members on duty. So we hope to never get down to that point, but we have at least thought through the process of, okay, how do we staff, what stations are open, what units are available, and all of that, all the way down to 2 people. Obviously, at one person, you really can't do anything because one person does not make a crew. So at that point, we call mutual aid.
Close the station, put them someplace else, and call someone else from somewhere.
Yeah, and that's what the matrix does, is it takes the units down one by one until there's not enough to staff all the stations, then it starts browning out stations until there's only one station, one unit left available. So we do have some preparedness there, and we'll keep the board appraised as we learn more about it and work our way through it. Skipping down to H on our biweekly report, the OMARX generator. That's the generator that's been basically pre-deployed by Marks at Station 64. It was moved down to Station 61 in the interim of our Station 61 generator being down. In the event we lost power, we could use that as a secondary power source and work on getting the station back up using that. So state asset that's here locally that we've been able to reallocate is a backup plan for ourselves. And then the last is the live burn. We did do the live burn last week. We had one relatively minor medical-only injury as a result of the training. But if you skip from the live burn section there back to the training summary, you'll see that the firefighter training category is substantially higher this time than usual, and that's to reflect the training hours that went into that live burn. So we got a lot of firefighter training, but not a lot of other trainings in during that 2-week period as a result of the concentrated focus and having that resource here in Beavercreek. So with that, I'll open to the board's questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is our room policy now in that you can only make 2,
That's the one you want back.
that you can only reserve the room for 2 meetings in advance? And
Yes, matter of fact, Michelle has already had to break somebody's heart that wanted to schedule it out for a year, and she said no. We are limited to how far out we can schedule it. So she is on the ball with that. Then we confirmed that one of the trainings that we thought might be a private entity is actually being performed. It's a Sinclair course that's being offered, and they're using some of the classroom space here for that. And so she's been on the ball with it and tracking down all the issues and getting the signature pages and everything back, so.
Yeah, 'cause I see one group on here every 2 weeks.
Yeah, and they're the ones that they had scheduled out, we didn't make them go back and reschedule, I don't believe, but anything in the future has to get added on. But we have a number of them that are just recurring, so they'll finish a day and then they'll come over and schedule their next one
okay.
that drops off.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Mrs. Frick?
I have no report.
Nothing. Mr. Kretz, do you have anything? Ms. Aarons? No? Okay. We do have legal invoices. And I believe I reviewed them, and I think you reviewed them too.
I did.
And I think they're for both September and October.
Right.
Okay,
For some of them, I don't think all of them.
no,
Right.
but when I look through, I'm thinking, why do we have two for the same? Then I realized, well, 1 month and one's the second.
I'll make a motion to approve invoice number 67233 dated September 1st, 2014 from Surdick, Dowd and Turner in the amount of $2,698.
Second?
Mr. Kretz,
Yes.
Ms. Graf,
Yes.
Make a motion to approve invoice number 67232 in the amount of, dated September 1, 2014 in the amount of $437 from Surdick, Dowd and Turner Company.
Second?
Mr. Kretz,
Yes.
Ms. Graf,
Yes.
Make a motion to approve invoice number 202616 dated October 1st, 2014 from Surdick, Dowd and Turner in the amount of $3,914.69.
Second?
Mr. Kretz,
Yes.
Ms. Graf,
Yes.
Make a motion to approve invoice number 202617 dated October 1st, 2014 from Surdick, Dowd and Turner in the amount of $2,622.
Second?
Mr. Kretz,
Yes.
Ms. Graf,
Yes. That it? Well done? Okay. Okay, I will now entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 to consider the compensation of a public employee.
Second. Or so moved, I'm sorry.
Second?
Mr. Kretz,
Yes.
Ms. Graf,
Yes.